my emerald tablets, my Hermetic teachings, my caduceus. So I can't get lost like that. All I can do is be angry that they're trying to make me lost, and then be angry that everyone else is lost because no one else has the relationship with my teachings like I do. How could they? How could they? So, this is the principle of correspondence. Knowing to bring it even more into symmetry. Because clearly we're, as far as making it as relatable as possible, we're in a time where it's all about superheroes. And we're in a timeline. We're in a construct where the Judeo-Christian religion, the idea of Jesus is that he's a superhero. So it's literally like superheroes are big in this world because everyone's lost, everyone's been taught to be in that Jesus energy of wanting to be saved. And I like, bro, again, like that's why I cried so much as a kid going through Christianity, because they're teaching me that I'm negative, teaching me that I'm not good enough alone. And now I have to feel bad reading their words that they're projecting into my space when I had no reason to feel like that before. Literally, I didn't feel like that before. And now I have to ask myself, why am I supposed to feel like this? And then it takes you as a Jewish Christian teacher telling me why I'm full of sin. But then, of course, it's only projections of what you did to even make it possible to colonize my land and get up to this point of communicating what you're communicating to me. So its ultimate projection is perception. This is like the biggest lesson I've learned as Chase here. And like why being silent is lit. If I could be silent way more, I would. Because it's all about projection and perception. And the more you're able to let people project onto you, you're only going to hear and be able to perceive how they create life. And now you're going to learn about yourself based on how you connect with their projections. Right? So it took me time because I had to go through the vibe. But as a kid, I already hated the projection that I'm full of sin and that I'm not good enough on my own and that I'm separate from God. And then it's like, even after fasting, like I've dealt with Christians. Like I had a Christian lady friend who, again, like with projection and perception, I can project onto her that she's a unique individual. So I can love her for being unique. On the other hand, she can't love me for being unique. Now, I can feel like she does, but that's my projection of how I want her to perceive me. When in reality, I should be intelligent enough to know that she only likes me because she is projecting her idea of Jesus onto me. And then that's where me fasting with this girl and like teaching her how to fast and stuff, we can build a whole relationship and it can feel organic. But in reality, she's not actually connecting with me. She's using me as a white supremacist. As a white supremacist Christian girl. She's using me to connect with her imagination. And because I'm the closest representation to her imagination possible, which is, you know, Jesus, fasting, being self-sustaining, building life from the inside out, she wants to connect with me, but then I get to learn about how she can only perceive me as Jesus. So then that's where I get way more wisdom after all of my experiences and just my experiences and what I've gone through life. I get way more wisdom when she's here talking to me like, hey, you're actually separate from God and here's how. And then she pulls up a whole whiteboard and draws out 2 cliffs. And she's like, so you're on one side of the cliff and you're separate. So you're not connected to God and you're not happy and you're suffering over here. You're on, but then there's the other side of the cliff and the other side is God. But notice this gap is too wide to jump. And it was amazing because this is like a 27-year-old woman. She has a child and she's here after all of my fasting, all the ways in which I've talked to her, like I'm talking to you now with this podcast. I was wasting my time, because the fact is she can't hear me past what she wants to hear. It doesn't matter how intelligently I'm articulating how we create life. If she wants to feel like she's not creating life and thus needs to feel like she needs to be saved from someone else who creates life better than her, then she's going to create that circumstance no matter what. And because that's her imagination. Like, her imagination is that. So when she's connecting with me, she's only going to be blocking out what I'm saying and filtering it through her imagination. And then we can have hours long of conversation, but it was all a waste of my time, because then we're just going to come back together and she's going to tell me why I'm separate from God, when I literally just explained her Bible to her better than she could even imagine it. But no, like, because the fact is that's not her desire. All right, she desires to feel like she's not creating life because she has some really messed up internal world that I can't see. And this is what I have to learn as a spirit, and had to, like, as far as like re-ingraining that awareness in this lifetime. Like, okay, us as spirits, we all have our own internal worlds that no one can see and no one can feel but us. And this is why we create physical reality, so we can share it with others. And then the illusion is that we are connected, actually. Okay, so yeah, we are connected, but we create illusions so we can feel connected. All right, so I felt connected with this girl. This girl felt connected with me. Guess what, though? That's an illusion, obviously. We are completely separate from each other. She has no idea how I feel about my own imagination. She has no idea what my imagination is. And no matter how much I articulate it to her, because she's lost in her own imagination, she is now drowning in her own feelings of toxicity and can't even be inspired or breathe in the clear words that I am bringing life to, expounding upon, projecting out. So it was just remarkable, because I got to sit there and watch this 27-year-old woman explain to me what I had explained to me back when I was in kindergarten. And I got to like go through a flashback of remembering being in like young church, you know, and like youth church, there we go. And them teaching me that as a kid, and them having to drill that into my mind so hard. They're like, yeah, so you're separate from God. You're separate from God. You're separate from God. You're not connected to God. You're on the other side of this cliff, and God is on the other side. You're on one side of this cliff, God's on the other side, and there's no way that you can connect to him. Like, literally, she was giving me the same exact analogy that I remember getting when I was like in first and second grade. And like, it was a constant analogy in church. So again, you know, that projection, perception, and it's a shame, because this is a Native American girl. Now, the thing is, she is Native American, as in she lives on a reservation, but I've also learned just how hard Europeans have colonized and consumed indigenous cultures so that they can position themselves as Native American. And actually, an insane amount of Native Americans out here are not Native Americans. They're literally European. They're literally white people. And the desire for white people to colonize indigenous lands has gone so hard that they have been able to categorize themselves as Native Americans so that they can collect benefits from their own government. This is what like so many native indigenous tribes are going through, where it's just straight up actually white people getting credit for being indigenous so that they can receive the benefits that the government gives them from all the slavery and colonialism that was wrought. So it's so twisted. It's so twisted. So it's like even if the government was giving assistance to the indigenous peoples that they were actively raping and murdering, that wouldn't be good, obviously, because that's not like, you can't give assistance to people that you're creating problems for. So it only gets worse when the fact is they're not even giving assistance to them. They're actually putting themselves in that position so that they can keep doing what they want to do. And so they put their own white people in the positions of reservations and to control Native Americans so that they can keep up their ugly narrative. So now when I'm talking to this Native American girl, she just looks European, And she does not care at all about race problems. She isn't in the awareness of actually being indigenous. She doesn't really care about nature like that. She's literally just a normal industrial revolution type girl. But she is classified as Native American and thus gets to play that role. And now she gets to spread Christianity and talk to me like that in that role. So it's all about like these white people, just white people wanting to be Native American, and they want to be indigenous. They want to create life, but their version of doing that is consuming life. And then after they consume life, feeling like, oh, I didn't create anything. God, Jesus, please save me. And then they're just going to consume God and Jesus too. So it's just literally the difference between consumption versus creation. If you are creative, you are happier alone, and you don't need to interact with a lot of people. If you're consumptive, then you're only happy when you're with others, and now you're going to do your best to colonize and eat the attention of everyone around you, which is literally religion. So that's it was just remarkable getting to go through that experience. Like, I could only learn about myself from interacting with all these spirits that aren't me. I interact with so many individuals who aren't me. Of course, right? That's the only way I can learn who I am, and then build up the groups and relationships that I actually want to be with, and that I feel like will actually resonate with my soul, and cultivate the garden that I already have going on internally, because I'm the God. I'm the creator. How dare you steal my creations and then tell me that I'm not creative, yet you're the one who is taking my creations to tell me I'm not creative. And then when I ask you where those creations came from, you're not even creative enough to say that you made them on your own, and you don't even know where they came from. So it's just like your law is just lost. So spirits do what they want, and you have to be intelligent enough to protect yourself from other spirits' desires, right? So this girl, she desires to be saved. This is why superheroes are so big out here. This is why superheroes are the ultimate Jewish Christian mentality, because Jesus is the first superhero. And then the idea of the government is that they sacrifice superheroes, they kill superheroes so that the population can be safe. And that's the idea of sacrificing Jesus on the cross so that you don't have to do what he did, right? So now the government has killed your superhero. The government has sacrificed your superhero. First, they taught you that you need a superhero. They taught you that you're not good enough alone. So now they can teach you that you need their idea to be happy. And then they're going to kill their own idea to show you that their superhero actually sacrificed his life so that you can be a slave inside of this simulation. And you should love being a slave inside of this simulation. This is what the Avengers is. Notice how they literally played the same exact energy out with Tony Stark. They don't know how to do anything else. Because it's literally just this. I'm telling you right now, like, this is what it is. Like, I'm telling you as Hermes. I'm putting it in the clearest way possible. And then, of course, I'm making sure that I'm explaining it fully. And not even fully, but explaining it the way that I feel like it, at least right now. That's the point of this podcast. I'm building this for us so we can just know what's up. Because that's the whole point of Tony Stark getting the Infinity Stones from Thanos and then snapping away. And snapping away, like, the alternative reality Thanos, so it wasn't even the same one, right? The stakes were low. And it was all just so they could do that emotional manipulation of us seeing Avengers Infinity War and going through the turmoil of, like, everyone died. And because we don't have spirituality, we're not taught to be spiritual from this system. We are supposed to project whatever negative emotions we have about death onto the screen. So now we can connect on this story, right? So now we're like, our favorite characters died, and everyone's scared of death. And then when they come out with the movie, the second part of the movie, now we can all be happy that Tony Stark was Jesus, because he was able to reset the simulation so that now we're all trapped in bodies here. And now we get to all come back. And now we're not free from this physical form. We get to come back and live out the earth that we were clinging to before, because that's our idea of life. So this is why superheroes are just so big, because it's about spirits wanting you to feel like you can't save yourself, because literally they have to teach you that you need to be saved in the first place. What are you even being saved from? Because like, if there's any I created Symmetry as a superhero to save me from white supremacy. So this is what you're seeing right now. Me as Hermes, I made this superhero to protect me from people who are telling me I need a superhero. And then I find out this superhero of Symmetry is just a natural expression of who I always have been. Because of course it is. I don't need to be saved by anyone but myself. Like, what are you talking about? The only reason you would feel like you can't save yourself is because you're so lost in your own emotions that you don't even believe that you can create life from all the water that you have. All of your water is life. All of your feelings of feeling like you need to be saved from something outside of yourself is your ability to create life. I do not understand why you cannot alchemize that into earth and something practical to stand on. It's disgusting to me. Not relatable to me. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate it. It's ultimate just white supremacist colonizer stuff. Like, oh, water, we're all connected. I love feeling connected. Well, then feel connected to yourself and make something that I can visit on my own. Stop feeling like you need to consume and colonize my land so that now when I come back centuries later, I'm in a space where I'm being told that I'm not the creator of my own creations. Disgusting. So, it's so funny. This podcast is supposed to be me getting into the principles of Hermeticism. But this is me getting into the principles of Hermeticism. This is how I feel like doing it. Because it's important to actually have this proper context of it. Okay, you need to know where I'm coming from. I'm using all these words, I'm speaking like this, so you know where I'm coming from. That's all I can do, is use air to show you where I'm coming from. See that? Mercury, coming, ooh, come, ooh, orgasm. I feel good alone though. I feel good on my own. So I'm always coming alone. I'm always orgasming on my own. My water feels good. It's pleasurable to be in my own water. This is why I then use my mind to show you where I'm coming from. This is all we can do as spirits. You as a spirit, use your mind to show other spirits, to fire other spirits, to project your light onto other spirits where you are coming from, where you are connecting your water inside of. Because we are all individual spaces. We're all coming from totally different perspectives. So this podcast, the whole point is me being able to share with you where I'm coming from. Mercury. All right, Mercury, my simulation, my world that's connected to the universe, so I can see everything that's happening in the universe and I can communicate about it. This is why I'm the messenger of God. All right, so my world, my simulation, and that's why it's so lost when I leave my simulation to enter another simulation, and then this simulation is telling me that I can't create simulations. And then they're using my creations to tell me I can't create simulations. Yo, I hate you. I've never hated anyone more. Like you, the spirits that are like working to make this possible, you are so beyond ugly. Like again, we'd have to like make up a whole new words to describe just how ugly and horrid you truly are in the inside. And the fact that like you need to work so hard to share it through all these scary movies, through all these just horrible movies, through the news, right? Jews love to send the news through the news. They love to choke us with the news. They love to stop our ability to breathe through the news, right? There we go with what, George Floyd? I can't breathe. It's all about choking us with noose through the news. Because that's how Jews make us lose. And that's how they build their game. Because it's a joke, haha. It's a joke. The news, it's a joke, haha. We can just make up anything and make money off of making you react to it. Because we know It's a joke, haha. It's just a joke. Don't take life too seriously. It's just one simulation. Sure, we're lying to you about everything, and we're constantly raping and murdering indigenous people so that we can create a system that works to enslave you and make you hate yourself. But haha, it's a joke. We're just Jews. Please watch the news. Yo, by the way, I was forced to go through high school learning about how the Holocaust was the worst genocide in human history. They never taught me about the genocide that made North, South, and Central America possible. They never talked to me about how hard the Spaniards worked to destroy and transform Mesoamerica and North America and Central America. They never talked to me about how hard the British worked to transform these lands, or the Portuguese, or the French, or the Italians, or the Dutch, or anyone. All my school wanted to drill into me was that the Holocaust was the worst event ever in human history. And here's another amazing memory that I have of just how emotionally twisted this garbage is. I was in AP psychology in high school, and I had this teacher who, I mean, whatever, like, I don't even need to get into the details because we'll make it short. So in AP psychology, I had this teacher, and this teacher, he was just teaching a class one day, and in this school, so my school is Walnut Hills High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. And this is like me reflecting back, it was all based in Latin. So it was like all about me super learning, like, okay, I am Hermes. Like, I literally, like, my spirit made the circumstance for me to even go to that school where I had to learn classical Latin for years. And everything was about like Greece and Rome at that school. So, and it's funny, they never talked to me about Hermes once. Because the whole point is that they're using spirituality to erase spirituality and build a new physical reality. And they need us to do that. So that's why they force me to sit in school all day, every day, so that they can colonize my mind with their made up concepts that they stole from me. So my teacher, he literally, because in this school, they would have us like go to seminars and meetings. They would like pull us out for just like all these different things to like really just keep teaching us how the Holocaust was the worst event in human history. Nothing has ever happened in human history that is worse than the Holocaust. That is what they constantly drove in. Okay? So I'm setting this up just to like really let you know like how emotionally twisted this world is. Right? Because the fact is, by the way, Hitler was inspired to commit the Holocaust based on how Europeans totally decimated indigenous peoples here. So the fact that Walnut Hills never mentioned once why Hitler was inspired to do the Holocaust is says everything, right? Like, if you're gonna drill into me that the Holocaust is the worst event ever, but you can't tell me that the person who made the Holocaust possible was inspired by the creation of the Americas, then fuck you. All right? So, and then furthermore, to take it, because that wasn't even the point. That's already insane. But to take it deeper, as far as emotional manipulation, because that's logical manipulation. Like, okay, you're telling me that this is the worst event in history, but this event only happened because this bigger event happened. And you're ignoring the bigger event. Like, what? So, and then here we go. So, because I wasn't conscious of it like that back then. Back then, I was more so reacting to the natural thing that my teacher said. And it took me reflecting upon it to now communicate like this. Of just like how twisted and disgustingly lost this emotional witchcraft manipulation is. Because after like being drilled in, like my school is just like, yeah, Holocaust, worst thing ever. Of course, then the teachers naturally regurgitate that. And my AP teacher, he just said like, you know, offhand, like, okay, yeah, now the Holocaust, I believe, is the worst event in human history. And everyone was just sitting there like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, everyone agreed. Like, specifically, there's this girl in the back of the class. Her whole identity was being Jewish at this school. So, like, that was, like, her whole thing. She was, like, the poster child of the Jewish religion, where, like, anytime she was talking or communicating and stuff with people, it was almost always from the space of, oh yeah, this is what I practice, this is what I do, and I have superiority over you because of that. And I'm saying that from, of course, like, that's all subconscious. It came out consciously in this outburst, though, because the fact is, he said that the Holocaust was the worst event in human history. He said nothing worse has ever happened in human history. And I raised my hand, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, Mr. Shaw. That was his name. That's cool, Mr. Shaw. But if this is the worst event in human history, like, by what account? Like, by numbers? Because if it's by numbers, that's not true. Like, literally, I'm like, if it's by numbers, the Holocaust is 6 million people, but like the slavery, and this is back when we're being taught, and we still are, but back when I was more so subscribed to the Atlantic slave trade model, because I was forced to be. I didn't get to awaken more to my Mercury stuff. So I was still in that story, but even based on those numbers, the Atlantic slave trade was supposedly like 10 million people plus affected. And then the Holocaust is 6 million people. And then I'm like, yeah, so I'm just wondering, like, how is it the worst when the Atlantic slave trade was 10 million people and the genocide of all these Native Americans is way more than that? Yo, it was remarkable how fast that Jewish girl stood up in the back of the class and just started screaming at me. She just started screaming at me. Her name was Emma. Emma just started going off on me. Emma was like, how dare you? She like literally just in the middle of like a fit. Like, how dare you compare genocides? How dare you compare what happened to people? You can't compare genocides. You can't compare murder. You can't compare atrocities like that. You're so insensitive. How dare you? And she stormed out of the class. And I was literally just sitting there with the feeling and thought of, whoa, holy shit. She had no problem at all, in any way, shape, or form, with Mr. Shaw saying that the Holocaust was the worst genocide in human history. She was on complete board with that. She loved that idea. She loved that. She's like, yes, the Holocaust is the worst. The moment I raise my hand and I'm like, yeah, but by what accounts? Numbers? Because that's figuratively not true. The genocide of Africans and indigenous peoples is way bigger than the Holocaust. Now she wants to make an outburst and say that we can't compare. Okay? So just showing you like the emotional manipulation, the witchcraft here, the logic of white supremacy projecting out an idea like, okay, this is it. This is what the truth is. And then how the moment you question it, emotional irrationality comes out. Because in reality, life is emotional. This is why life is hermetic. Ha 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 ha. Okay, so you're rolling with symmetry. You're rolling with Hermes. All right, we're talking about how spirits make their emotions matter. So this is how Jews make their emotions matter, right? That emotional manipulation. Hitler was only inspired to commit the Holocaust because of the insane genocide against indigenous peoples. And for you to push the idea that the Holocaust is the worst in human history, when it's literally not at that point, like, it's literally, the Holocaust is like a smaller, weaker version of what America did to become great. Fundamentally, okay? Fundamentally. This is why America loves to point at the Holocaust like it is the worst. And this is why, and you know, this podcast is crazy right now. We're talking about superheroes and stuff. So this is why in Marvel, okay? In Marvel, just like Tony Stark is Jesus, he sacrifices his individuality. He sacrifices his life. He sacrifices his life so that we can sacrifice our individuality. In Marvel, they literally admit how Tony Stark creates his villains. Just like America created Nazis, just like white supremacists create the entities that they claim that they're fighting, just like basically white people create demons, just like humans demonize anything. Tony Stark created Ultron, and he's supposed to be a superhero because he created a problem that killed a bunch of people, destroyed the environment, and then he created an even bigger problem to get rid of that problem. Like, that's what our idea of superheroes are based on Marvel. Okay? So it's literally this. It's literally how Europeans have created insane, disgusting amounts of genocide throughout North, South, and Central America. And then when other Europeans get inspired by how these Europeans build their new world, spread genocide, then that other group of Europeans starts to do it, right? So this is why Hitler practiced witchcraft on his own people. It's just about that. It's just about witchcraft, right? It's about you creating what you want. So Hitler was like, whoa, I see that Europe created what they wanted by raping and enforcing insane amounts of Jim Crow slavery genocide upon indigenous peoples that we now call black people throughout all of North, South, and Central America. I would like to do that here. And then here we are as the Americans who inspired that. Now we're able to turn around and say, oh, Nazis are evil. Bro, Nazis are the weakest whitewashed version of what you did to indigenous peoples. Like, Nazis are the weakest whitewashed version of who you are. So of course you're going to say that Nazis are evil. Of course you're going to project onto them that they're evil, because in reality all of their evil is just a little fraction of how evil you truly are. Which is why you created them. That's why you created Ultron, Tony Stark. Ultron wouldn't be evil if you weren't. And of course, in Marvel, the fact is Tony Stark literally is a multi-billionaire. He has all of his money. Why? 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 Does anyone know why? I'll tell you why. Because he sold weapons of mass destruction. So we're literally being taught through the Marvel universe that the ultimate superhero, and just in general, Mason Man, that's who Tony Stark is, Mason Man. Literally, there is I'm literally remembering, it's one of his movies where he has a license plate and it zooms in on it. It says Stark 33, and it's supposed to be about how like being a 33-degree Freemason, and how 3 is mind. So when you can connect both versions of your mind, you can have 6 inside of yourself. So one mind of yourself is the man, the other mind is your woman. So if you as a spirit can have an individual masculine mind and then an individual feminine mind, you're able to create your own 6. And you're actually able to have sex with yourself in a way that creates very awesome life. And that's why Freemasons weaponize that 33 energy. And that's why Tony Stark is a Freemason, and he's a 33-degree Freemason, and he made his whole living off of killing people. Literally, like, that's it. Weapons of, like, all of your technology was literally built from stealing materials from indigenous peoples and then transforming it into something that you can use to kill indigenous peoples. This is literally why the Marvel Universe has to make the point that Captain America, everything that makes Captain America great is either a serum that alchemizes cells into something he couldn't do alone, or it's a shield that was stolen from Africa. It's a shield that was stolen from vibranium from Wakanda. Right? So literally, it's like spirit has to communicate itself. Marvel is hilarious because Marvel is just showing like, hey, the symbol of America, Captain America's shield, is literally made from materials stolen from Africa. As if they could not get any more transparent with how they've created Black Panther in general, stealing from me. How they created Spider-Man in general, stealing from me. How they've created any of their concepts in general, stealing from me and my soul group and all the spirits that we've just naturally been expressing ourselves as. Okay? They have to admit it. They can only use the truth to tell you lies. And then that's why Emma, literally, she couldn't stay in the class. She couldn't actually speak to me or talk about the numbers. Like, oh, hey, Emma, so how come you didn't stand up when he said that the Holocaust was the worst? But the moment I questioned, like, how is it the worst when the Holocaust is 6 million, the Atlantic slave trade's 10 million, and the colonization of North, South, and Central America is at least 100 million, if not way more. Bro. But of course, that's the point of emotion. She could not actually stand there and rationally speak to me because her spirit would have to realize that she is reliant on feeling superior inside of her victim energy. So that's why she had to storm out of the classroom and just make a scene. And then I was left in the aftermath of me looking bad. But then also, I mean, people were asking me. Like, then it started to become a topic of conversation, of course. Because I'm like, okay, well, hold up. Because numbers-wise, that makes no sense. And then also, I had people on my side. There's another girl named Emma. There are multiple Emmas, of course. Emma's a common name. That's why I'm not outing anyone with the name Emma. Because there is another girl named Emma, and then there is like this white boy sitting in front of me. I think his name might have been Connor. I love people. I really remember names. Not everyone, of course, so, whatever. But I remember what I can. This dude, like, they were both like, well, yeah, like, I'm interested in hearing what you had to say, Chase, just considering the effects of the Holocaust seem to be much less than slavery. And then that became the conversation. Because literally, just to get even more objective with it, how are you going to say the Holocaust is the worst atrocity in human history when it didn't even result in mass slavery? It didn't result in the mass colonization and enslavement of multiple continents of people, and then centuries of building a system off of their, just brutal slavery. Like, it's just not, no. Especially when the banks are Jewish. And I wish I brought that up back then. I wish I did. I wish I brought that up. I'm like, hey, how is this possible when literally all these banks, the whole concept of money is ran by Jews? Like, how are you going to tell me that the Holocaust is the worst event in human history when you're the one making money off of making me believe that, and you're erasing my indigenous family with money? You're erasing my indigenous peoples with money, and you don't even want to acknowledge that. You don't care because of your own imagination. Because you want to colonize and eat me so badly that you need to make me feel like I'm not good enough alone, so I'll let you eat me.